Hello, this is Maria, back again for the second card for the Artistically Inked stamp set and die, and using this marvelous designer paper. Now, in the previous video, I showed you how to make this card, and in this video, I would like to step it up a bit and make this card. Now, if you had looked at the picture on page 97 of the catalog. Let me just bring it out here. Page 97, I have it. Here we go. Sometimes if you don't quite know how to start with a stamp set or a bundle, in the catalog there are wonderful examples done by the artists that work with Stampin' Up. And it's quite okay, and as a matter of fact, it's encouraged that you copy some of these designs. It's called casing, C-A-S-E. You case a card, and I actually am casing this card. I am changing the color scheme up and adding another element to it, but I started with this card. Okay, so that's a tip for you. If you're having some difficulty coming up with ideas, sometimes just casing a card from the catalog is enough to get your mojo going. Okay, so this card, and I'm going to show you how to stamp this envelope. Okay, I'll leave that there. Bring out my silicone pad, and this time I'm going to be using 3 of the new in colors: polished pink, soft succulent, and pale papaya. I'm also going to be using the Stampin' Seal again, as well as Tombow. And for the paper, I'm using thick basic white as the card base. This time it's a side fold, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then I'm using soft succulent, and I have the measurements here. Now I will be putting them in the description on the video as well. This is 4 by 5. And it'll be added to the front of the card. Okay, we'll get it right yet. And then there's a smaller piece, which will be the art piece, and it is 3 3/4 by 4. Okay. Then there's some pieces for the inside. There's soft succulent, which is 4 by 5 1/4, and then a smaller piece, which is 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. Okay, again, these measurements will be in the description of the video below. All right, I'm going to put everything aside except for this art piece, which, just to make a correction, 3 3/4 by 4. Okay, sometimes I am mathematically challenged. Today seems to be one of them. Maybe it's the snow that we had earlier in the day. Okay, now I'm going to do some stamping first, and if you look carefully, there's a die that I placed right over top. So this time, in addition to the stamping, I'm adding the die. Okay, this is the die that I'll be using. It looks kind of onerous, doesn't it? But it's just wonderful on some of the cards. And to use this, I'm going to be using the Adhesive Sheets. And I will show you how to use those adhesive sheets, because people tend to forget. And it's the greatest way to add die cuts to the front of your card, especially such an intricate one. Okay, let's do the stamping first. So I will open up all my ink pads. Be careful not to make too much noise. I have to move that aside. Pale Papaya, Soft Succulent, and Polished Pink. Now I'm going to do the larger image first, and that's in Polished Pink. And you can stamp off to make it a paler color if you want. I just like to use the full strength for some reason. There. And then I'll do the smaller stamp in Pale Papaya. And right there. And then some leaves. The double leaf, and I'm using Soft Succulent for that. And somewhere around here. And then a single leaf. One here. And one down there. Okay, now there's also a little dot stamp. I call it dot stamp. And you really should use a smaller block, but that's the only one I have left. And this provides quite an interest in the background. I always like to put some dots around. I mean, you can put them wherever you like. There. And I'm also going to just clean my stamp because I want to put some dots in the center, but I want to use the same color as the flower. Just a little squirt. Here we go. Okay, we just have to. Do you ever have some days where everything seems to fall? Yeah, that was a lucky catch because that fell right into my ink pad. Okay, there, right in the center. All right, and the sentiment, that probably should have been stamped first. I'm going to use the same sentiment from the stamp set as the previous card. Okay, and we'll put it right there. There. That worked out great. Actually, you should have stamped the sentiment first. Because sometimes if you do like I did, sometimes you run out of room. Okay, now the next step is to die cut the die, and I'm just going to close up the ink pads because, as you saw earlier, I tend to drop things, and we don't need any more things dropping into ink pads. Okay, now okay, this is the die, and I'm going to die cut it in basic white, and I'm going to add it to the front like that. Okay, now I mentioned that I'm going to be using the adhesive sheets. Okay, if I can find where I put them. I had them right here. Here they are. Okay, now if you've not seen them before, this is what they look like. They're 12 inches by 6, and there are 12 sheets in the catalog. And the sheets, they look like this, and they have little perforations here so that you can always find where you can take the cover off. Okay, I'm just going to move this aside. And this is the piece of basic white that I'm going to adhere this to, so that when we die cut it, we're actually converting this to a sticker. Okay, so I'm going to take this off. And I'll leave the last one. I'm going to lay it down and just add that to it. And then I'll take the last piece off. There. Now we'll take this and lay it on the cardstock side, and I'll go to my die cutting machine, and voila, I'll bring back the die cut. Now, as you can see, there are some elements here that need to be poked out. However, I found that when you start taking the backing off, a lot of these just come right with it when you peel it off. And then you just have a few to poke out, which is not too bad. This is all you have to do. That's not too bad. You can see it's such a delicate thing that if you had to apply Tombow glue or liquid glue to this, you get glue all over the place. Okay, now I'll bring back my art piece. Move this out of the way. And to decide which way I like it, I think that looks good. Now, it will be extending over the edge, but that's okay because I'm going to be adhering this to the soft succulent piece. There we have it. That wasn't too bad, was it? All right, now we get the soft succulent piece, and I'm going to add this at an angle, like this, okay? Okay, now I'll add that to the card front. You know, if it sticks over the end of your card, that's quite okay too. Actually, there are some card artists that will deliberately do that. Sometimes that just gets a little bit bent out of shape, you might say, when you put it in an envelope. But if your envelope is big enough, then that shouldn't be a problem. Okay. Now I have some embellishments, and these have been in quite high demand. As a matter of fact, you can't even order them yet. They are the 2021, 2023 in color jewels, and they are gorgeous. Aren't they lovely? Rhinestones. And I'm going to use the polished pink. They come in 2 sizes, I think. Yeah, that's 2. And as soon as we can order them again, I'm going to get some more because they're absolutely wonderful. Now, I'm going to do something on this card that I didn't do in my sample. Here's my sample. I'm actually going to put a couple right in the center. Now, as long as the number of embellishments that I have on my card are an odd number, I can do that. There. Oh, I like that better. Okay. Now let's add the inside. I'll put that away. And before I do that, I'm going to do some stamping for the inside. And I'll show you what I did. Okay, this is a step up from the first card where I didn't do any stamping on the inside. So what I did was I took the small, there is a small 3-flower stamp. I'll get it right here. And I'll use the dot stamp again. It's hiding on me. Disappeared on me. I'll find it. Okay, and I'll use the polished pink. I'll put that there. And one in this corner. One in this corner. And okay, there's that. Now if I can find my dot stamp, I'll just move these things along here. Sure it's hiding on me. Well, where did it go? Oh, here it is. So what happens when you have a small workspace? My space here is about not even 2 feet. Okay. Soft Succulent. And the reason I use the dots, and that ties the front of the card in with the inside. There. Okay, now I can add it to this, the Soft Succulent. And I'll add it at an angle, just like I did on the front. And now I'll add it to the inside of the card. There, and that's the card finished, with the exception of the envelope. Now, if you'll recall, the last envelope we did, we used the big stamp and stamped all the way across. There we go. I think I brought it with me. There we go. Okay, so I thought this time let's do it a little bit differently and make it look more like the front of the card. So, move this out of the way. Get the envelope. I'll make sure you can see me. There we go. There's a big one in polished pink. And then a small one in pale papaya. There we go. You ever find that when you're working, you start out with a space that is enormous, and the more you work, the smaller and smaller your workspace becomes, and the next thing you know, you're working in a 2 by 2 inch patch, which is what I'm finding right now. I started out with quite a good space, and my workspace is shrinking like the Wicked Witch of the West. Okay, some leaves. And it doesn't matter where you put them. Oops, I got a little bit of ink on the envelope. Inky fingers. Okay, and again, use the dots to tie everything together. Yeah, I can put one over here too. Alrighty, so there we have the envelope, and we have card number 2. Let's close out the inks here before I finish up. So with this card, we stepped it up a bit. The first card, it was designer paper with a bit of the ephemeral pack. And this one, I did stamping and I used the die cut. So that steps it up a bit. The next card is going to be a little bit more, stepped up a bit more because I'm using more stamping. I'm using stamping and die cuts in layering, and I'm also adding a ribbon. And I'm going to shut the video down now, and while I get the supplies for the third card, and I'll make a separate video for that. Again, it's Maria, and thank you very much for watching. I hope you're enjoying these videos.